Hello. Throughout your life, you've been losing power and never noticed the wound. Every time you responded to someone who never deserved your words, you gave them a piece of yourself. This situation drained you more each time. Every time you explained yourself to people determined to misunderstand you, you surrendered control of your emotions to them. This is the truth that weak men never learn and strong men never forget. Your attention is not free. It's the most expensive currency you possess, and you're spending it on people who wouldn't even step outside to save your life. Machiavelli understood this 500 years ago. The prince who chases is the prince who falls. In this video, you'll learn the art that separates kings from beggars, the cold, calculated mastery of ignoring people. And once you understand this, no one will ever be able to control you again. The philosophy of silence. Why Machiavelli never chased. Niccolò Machiavelli watched the rise and fall of empires from the shadows of Florence. He studied princes, popes, and generals. He dissected power like a surgeon dissects a body. And in all his observations, there was one truth that echoed louder than any battle cry. The man who chases loses. The man who withdraws conquers. You see, Machiavelli never believed in justice. He always believed in results. And the results always showed that people who withheld their presence became magnetic, while those who gave it freely became forgettable. The prince who responded to every insult was seen as insecure. The prince who answered every criticism was seen as defensive. But the prince who sat in silence, allowing his enemies to scream into the void, was found terrifying, because silence is not emptiness. Silence is a statement. It says, "You're beneath my response." It says, "Your existence doesn't deserve my energy." It says, "I operate on a level you can't reach." That's why Machiavelli advised leaders to be like the fox and the lion. The fox is smart enough to know which traps to avoid. The lion is strong enough to know which battles are beneath him. Today, most men are neither. They're dogs chasing every passing car, barking at every stranger, exhausting themselves for nothing. You won't be that man. You'll learn that power is not loud. Power is silent. The person you ignore will replay every interaction over and over, searching for answers. They'll wake up at night, wondering what they did wrong. They'll write messages they'll never send. They'll rehearse conversations that will never happen. You've become a ghost haunting their thoughts. This is the power you hold just by looking the other way. The human mind cannot tolerate rejection. We're coded for connection, approval, reaction. When you deny someone this basic need, you create an obsession. They'll try harder to reach you. They'll change their behavior hoping to get a reaction. They'll question their own worth. And all this is happening while you're doing absolutely nothing. This isn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. This is understanding the mechanics of the human soul and using them strategically. Weak men beg for attention. Strong men weaponize their absence. This is the most dangerous weapon in human relationships. When you ignore someone who wronged you, you don't give them closure. Closure is a gift, and they didn't deserve it. Instead, you leave them in psychological uncertainty, forever wondering, forever doubting, forever smaller than they were before they crossed you. This is the cold reality of power. The greatest punishment is not revenge. The greatest punishment is irrelevance, and you deliver it simply by acting as if they don't exist. Humans can never accept being ignored. The art of strategic withdrawal, disappearing without leaving. There's a difference between vanishing and strategically withdrawing. Absence is weakness. Withdrawal is power. The master of this art learns to be physically present, but emotionally unreachable. He sits in the room, but his energy is elsewhere. He looks at you but sees through you. This isn't something you imitate. This is something you become. Strategic withdrawal means choosing where your presence goes. You don't scatter yourself across every conversation, every argument, every petty drama, begging for your participation. You preserve yourself like a weapon that only fires when victory is certain. Most men consume themselves by being always available. They answer every call. They respond to every message. They engage with every provocation. And in doing so, they become ordinary. Ordinariness is the enemy of power. When you're always accessible, you have no value. When you selectively disappear, you become rare. And what's rare is always desired. Apply this with ruthless consistency. Let calls go unanswered. Let messages sit unread. Let people wonder where you are and what you're doing. The mystery you create is more powerful than any words you could speak. Being emotionally unreachable isn't about being cold for cruelty's sake. It's about protecting your inner world from those who haven't earned access. Your thoughts, your energy, your attention. These are sacred territories. Only those who've proven themselves should be allowed to enter. Others meet the wall. And here's the secret: most will never understand. The less you give, the more they want. The more you withdraw, the harder they chase. You're not disappearing. You're ascending. And from your height, the noise below becomes quieter, smaller, and ultimately meaningless. Enemies, critics, and noise. People who deserve your silence. Not everyone deserves your words. Most people don't even deserve your silence. They deserve nothing. Learn to identify people who should be completely erased from your attention. First, your enemies. These are those who actively work against you. They want your downfall. They whisper behind your back and smile to your face. Machiavelli taught that a prince must know his enemies, but never give them the satisfaction of recognition. When you respond to an enemy, you elevate them. You tell the world they're important enough to disturb your peace. But when you completely ignore them, you take their power from them. They become shadows fighting the sun. Second, the critics. These are voices that exist only to tear down what others build. They create nothing. They contribute nothing. They're spectators shouting from the cheap seats while you play the game. Responding to critics is the fastest way to lower yourself to their level. Let them talk. Let them scream. Their words dissolve in the air, while your actions are carved in stone. Third, energy vampires. These are people who drain you with their constant problems, endless drama, need for approval. They disguise themselves as friends, but they're parasites feeding on your attention. Cut them off without explanation. You owe them nothing. You must understand, every reaction you give to worthless people is energy stolen from your purpose. Every moment spent on their noise is a moment stolen from your greatness. The powerful man doesn't fight every battle. He chooses his battles with precision and lets the rest burn on their own. Your silence is not passive. Your silence is the loudest statement you can make. The discipline of indifference, training yourself to feel nothing. Ignoring people is easy to understand, but hard to execute. If you let it, your emotions will betray you. The insult will hurt, the disrespect will burn. Every fiber of your being will scream for you to react, to defend yourself, to prove them wrong. This is where weak men fail. They know the strategy, but can't control the feeling. You must train yourself to feel nothing. This isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about transcending it. The Stoics called this apatheia, a state where external events cannot disturb your inner fortress. Machiavelli called this virtù, the cold self-mastery that allows a man to act with precision rather than passion. Start with small provocations. When someone disrespects you, pause, breathe, let the anger rise, and then let it pass through you, without action. Don't clench your fists. Don't change your expression. Be stone. Practice this daily until indifference becomes your default state. The man who cannot control his reactions is a puppet. Everyone can pull his strings. Everyone can manipulate his emotions. He's predictable, exploitable, weak. But the man who has mastered indifference is untouchable. You can insult him, and he'll look at you like you're speaking a foreign language. You can betray him, and he'll simply remove you from his life without drama. He doesn't need to prove anything, because his power is internal. This discipline isn't natural. It needs to be forged through repetition, failure, constant self-correction. There will be days you win. There will be moments your emotions win. But every time you regain control, you become stronger. Every time you choose silence over reaction, you add another layer to your armor. Eventually, nothing can penetrate it. Power dynamics and social chess. Controlling the game without moving. Every human interaction is a chess game. Most people aren't aware they're playing. They move impulsively, emotionally, without strategy. They react to every attack and defend every square, and they lose. A master of power understands that often the greatest moves are no moves at all. When you strategically ignore someone, you force them to make the next move. You put them in a position where they have to come to you, explain themselves, seek your approval. The dynamic shifts completely. In relationships, whoever cares less has the power. This isn't cynicism, this is reality. When you stop chasing, stop explaining, stop seeking approval, you become the center of gravity. Others begin to orbit around you. In business, in negotiations, the man who appears unaffected wins the negotiation. Desperation shows, neediness shows, but calm indifference shows you have options, that you don't need this deal, that you can walk away without losing sleep. This is how fortunes are made. In social hierarchies, the person who doesn't seek approval rises above those who do. While others compete for attention, you stand on the sidelines. While others gossip and engage in petty conflicts, you stay above the noise. People will notice, people will wonder, and people will respect what they can't understand. This is social chess at the highest level. You don't win by taking every piece. You win by controlling the board with minimal effort. You win by preserving your energy while letting others exhaust themselves. You win by being the player who can't be read, can't be predicted, can't be manipulated. The game is always being played. The only question is, are you the chess master or the pawn? The danger of caring too much. When attention becomes your chain, here's the trap that destroys most men. They care too much about what others think. They wake up wondering if people like them. They go to sleep replaying conversations, analyzing every word, searching for signs of approval or rejection. This is slavery disguised as social awareness. When you care about others' opinions, you hand them the keys to your mind. They can make you happy with a compliment. They can destroy you with an insult. Your entire emotional state becomes dependent on external validation. You're no longer a free man. You're a prisoner begging for crumbs of approval from people who don't think about you when you leave the room. Machiavelli warned against this weakness. A prince who tries to be loved by everyone will be loved by no one. A prince who fears being hated will make fear-based decisions. The need for approval is the death of power. Dark psychology reveals why this happens. We're programmed from childhood to seek approval. Parents reward us for good behavior. Teachers praise us for correct answers. Society conditions us to measure our worth through others' eyes. Breaking this programming is one of the hardest things you'll do, but it's necessary. The man who doesn't need approval cannot be controlled. You can't bribe him with praise. You can't threaten him with criticism. He operates with an internal compass that doesn't shift with popular opinion. This is true freedom. Start by catching yourself when you seek approval. Notice when you change your words to please others. Notice when you hesitate because you fear judgment. Every time you catch yourself, you weaken the chain. Every time you act without seeking approval, you move closer to freedom. Caring too much isn't sensitivity, it's weakness. The powerful man deeply cares about his purpose, his mission, his legacy. But he doesn't care at all about the opinions of those irrelevant to his path. Learn the difference, and you'll break chains you didn't even know you were wearing. Becoming untouchable, the final transformation. And everything you've learned leads to this moment. Philosophy, psychology, discipline, strategy, all converge into a single transformation. You're becoming untouchable. This isn't arrogance. This is architecture. You're building a version of yourself that those who want to harm you, distract you, or control you cannot reach. This is true, pure power. The untouchable man walks differently. He speaks differently. He carries himself with a quiet authority that requires no announcement. People feel it before he speaks a word. There's something in his eyes that tells the world he's seen through the illusions that trap ordinary men. He doesn't compete for attention because he knows attention will find him. He doesn't argue with fools because he knows silence is the superior weapon. He doesn't run for approval because he approves of himself from within. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's forged in countless moments of restraint. Every time you chose not to respond, you added steel to your spine. Every moment you walked away from drama, you elevated your position. Every time you let someone scream into the void of your indifference, you proved you're beyond their reach. The untouchable man isn't cold to be cold. He's selective. He reserves his warmth for those who deserve it. He reserves his words for important moments. He reserves his energy for battles aligned with his purpose. Everything else gets nothing. This is the final truth of Machiavellian power. The prince who can be emotionally wounded will eventually be physically wounded. The prince who can be manipulated through his need for approval will eventually be destroyed by those who exploit that need. But the prince who needs nothing from anyone becomes an unstoppable force. You're not becoming heartless. You're becoming sovereign. There's a kingdom inside you that belongs to no one but yourself. Your thoughts are your territory. Your emotions are your subjects. Your attention is your gold, and you decide who enters through the gates. From this day forward, you don't react. You respond only when it serves you. You don't explain. You let your results speak. You don't chase. You attract as someone worth chasing. This is the final transformation. This is what it means to be untouchable. The call to power. Your reign begins now. You've sat in the shadows long enough. You've given your energy to people who drain you and give nothing in return. You've explained yourself to those determined to misunderstand you. You've chased approval from people who can't approve of themselves. That version of you dies tonight. The man who emerges from this moment is different. He carries Machiavelli's wisdom in his mind and strategy's coldness in his heart. He understands that attention is currency, and he'll never spend it carelessly again. He knows that silence is not weakness, but the ultimate display of power. He accepts that the art of ignoring people is about self-preservation and dominance, not hatred. This is your awakening. This is the moment you stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. You won't react to every provocation like a puppet pulled by strings anymore. You won't explain yourself to people who've made up their minds anymore. You won't spend precious hours on those who wouldn't sacrifice a minute for you anymore. From today, you operate differently. You talk less and observe more. You engage only when it serves your purpose. You focus on what truly matters while letting the world's noise fade to background static. Your goals, your growth, your legacy. The people who once controlled your emotions will notice the change. They'll test you. They'll provoke you. They'll try everything to pull you back into their games. But you won't budge. You'll look at them with eyes that have seen the truth. And you'll give them nothing. Not your anger, not your disappointment, not even recognition. They'll be ghosts, trying to scare a man who no longer believes in their existence. This is cold power psychology in its purest form. This is Machiavellian mastery applied to modern life. This is the ruthless art of ignoring that separates kings from ordinary men, winners from losers, legends from the forgotten. You now possess knowledge that most men will never understand. Use it wisely. Use it strategically. Use it to build an empire within yourself that no external force can ever collapse. If something in this message ignited something inside you, leave a comment below with the words, "I am untouchable." Declare to the world that you're choosing power over weakness, silence over noise, sovereignty over slavery. If you found value in these words, hit the like button and show your commitment to this path. Subscribe to this channel and turn on all notifications so you never miss another lesson on power, psychology, and self-mastery. Your reign begins now. Go and be untouchable. See you in the next video.